Hey everybody, welcome back to Dental Unfiltered. I'm Matt Brown. I'm here with my normal co-host, Dr. Andrew Vallo, and he usually comes up with the subjects for the episodes me and you are together. And I don't know the story behind this subject. I just know the title, so I'm really interested in the juicy on this one. $35,000 fraud. So I imagine with an organization as big as yours, fraud is going to happen at some point because your organization is kind of ginormous. So Andrew, get into it. Tell us about this $35,000 fraud.
I think fraud and embezzlement's very commonplace in dental practices, guys. I think it happens more than people realize. And I know we've had some fraudulent charges over the years. Some may have been accidental. Some may have not been. But typically speaking, there's smaller charges. There may be, I would maybe classify them more as misuse, misappropriation of funds. I mean, we have different employees that have employee cards, and sometimes over the years you look at a charge and you're like, what was going on there? And maybe it was a $30 charge and the employee, oh, I accidentally had it in my Apple Pay or something, okay, like whatever. Or I didn't switch the card on the Amazon I was using. Okay. And honestly, I'm sure we still have some of that stuff that happens that goes overlooked. So here's the thing, guys, like with the 11 offices, I mean, we're spending $800,000 a month, give or take, on credit cards. And so there are a ton of charges to go through. And obviously, like, we use an accounting firm, they go through charges, and they'll usually flag stuff for us. But again, they're typically looking at stuff over a certain dollar amount. We also have our CFO that goes through stuff. And then I also, like, we sit down on a monthly basis. CFO, COO, CEO, me, and our accounting team, and we actually run through the credit card charges together. And that's not so much to catch fraud. That's more so when we do our EBITDA adjustments and EBITDA add backs to see things that shouldn't count against EBITDA if it was a one-time cost, a new office startup cost, things like that. We had always gone, we sorted the charges by amount. We started with the most expensive charges, and we'd work our way down, and we'd stop at $500. So $500 was the minimum charge we were looking at. But the last meeting, we were done ahead of schedule. We had about 10 minutes left in the meeting time, and we had gotten through all the charges down to $500. So I said, hey, why don't you guys run it down a little more? Like, let's just see what charges we've got under $500. And so all of a sudden, I started seeing all these charges for $499 from the same, multiple charges, same company, Dental Cloud Backups. That's what we use for our backup for our, dental software. But there was a bunch. Like there wasn't like a handful. And like my first thought was, I thought our contract was $400 a month, not $499 a month. So I'm like, I wonder if they bumped it up. And then as I started like adding up the charges in my head, I'm like, wait a second. Like, we had done an agreement with this backup company at $400 a month per office, and we've got 11 offices. And all of a sudden, I'm like, man, there's like definitely more than 11 $499 charges here. So we're like getting through, and I don't know how many there were, 16 or something. I'm like, so they've like added in some extras. So like we keep scrolling. All of a sudden, we get to $399, and there's all those Dental Cloud backup charges again. I'm like, what the hell? So there ends up being like 34 total charges, and this is 1 month. 34 total charges from Dental Cloud backup. They ended up being, or maybe it was like 36. It ended up being like, it was like about $17,000 total that they charge us in like $399 and $499 increments in 1 month. We're supposed to be paying $400 a month per office. And at that point, we only had 10 offices open. Like that month we were looking at. This was fairly recent, but we were looking back a month or whatever, and we just opened Venice beginning of June. So it's 10 offices. It should have been $4,000 a month. So then this was May. So then we go to look at June, and June, which was not quite over yet, but they had already charged us, and it was like the same thing. It was like the same amount, all these charges. It was like about $17,000. So then we go back to April, and it was like the same thing. I was like, holy shit. So then we go back to March, and March is $4,000. 10 charges, $399. When we go back to February, 10 charges. It's like something happened between March and April where all of a sudden, I don't know if it was an error. I honestly don't know for sure. I have some theories. We kind of switched some stuff with how we were doing things with the computers, from like remote access from TeamViewer. We had this new VPN set up, and I think maybe it duplicated charges or computers or something. It may potentially have been on our IT company because they're the ones who work with the third-party vendor for the backup. So obviously I was not very happy. Got an emergency meeting with the CEO of the IT company, and we're kind of trying to figure out what's going on, and he doesn't really have answers for us. Try to reach out to Dental Cloud Backup, and they're not being responsive. Basically, we were getting overcharged by about $13,000 per month for 3 months. So it was actually closer to $40,000, I think, total in overcharges. And after like 24 hours, when we couldn't come to some resolution, we couldn't get Dental Cloud Backup to come in and be like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry, this was a screw up, we're going to revert, whatever it was. I said to our CFO and our COO, I said, I need you guys to go right to the credit card company, which we use our bank, which is kind of helpful, but we use our lender in Huntington for our business credit cards. We went right to Huntington. We're like, guys, these are fraudulent. Like, we've got, a contract with this company, $400 per month per office. Look at all these months. They charge us $4,000 a month. We didn't all of a sudden open 20 new offices or whatever. So we reported all the overage. We didn't report the initial $4,000. We had an agreement there, but all the overage charges, the extra $13,000 a month for those 3 months, we reported them all as fraudulent. So now we're, trying to figure out still what happened, and we're trying to figure out if we're going to stick with this company or if we're going to go, and we're looking at other potential backup, options. But guys, this was a good lesson to me, because I was sitting here thinking, like, I'm a good CEO. My CFO's doing it, and my CFO's my dad, so I'm not going to throw him under the bus either. But like, we're thinking we're doing a very thorough job for a dental group that's, we're producing 2.5 million a month lately, on pace to do close to $30 million this year. And we're going through all of our bank, our CFO's matching up all the open dental report, what's being deposited in the bank. We're matching all the debits from the bank to make sure they're all legitimate. We're tracking any chargebacks from credit card companies or financing. We're tracking all the credit card charges down to, and we're thinking like $500 is kind of a low amount when you think about, a lot of our charges are in the thousands, that we're spending. So we thought we were being, very detail oriented when it came to tracking all of the financial health of our business. And here, if we hadn't had 10 extra minutes in that meeting that day, and if we hadn't gone down that rabbit hole of like, hey, let's look at these charges under $500 today, we would have missed an extra $13,000 a month in fraudulent charges. And who knows when we would have caught them. 6 more months could have gone by. We could be talking easily 6 figures in overcharges that came right off our bottom line if we didn't go. So that was like a lesson to me that, like, maybe we're not being quite as detailed in our approach as I thought we were, and maybe we need to do a little bit of a deeper dive on a more regular basis. So
yeah, I think it's really easy when you have a high quantity of credit card charges to kind of just not get into the nitty gritty of it. And you don't realize, like, you're losing thousands of dollars a month. Part of the problem with embezzlement in dental practices is docs not paying attention to their numbers. So if docs aren't paying attention to average patient value, collections, A&R, what makes you think docs are going to be going through their credit card charges? And I think for a doc, the indicator behavior you have to beware of is, like, if you as the doc are thinking, oh, my manager is going to take care of all this. No one cares about your money more than you do.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And, there was part of me that's kind of thinking like, well, it's a cost of scaling. The bigger that you get, the harder it is to pay attention. But I think that was just me making an excuse for myself. And I'll tell you what else, man. When I was one practice, I wasn't going in as detail as I am now. So, that makes me think like, okay, yeah, like, we're bigger. And like, okay, at the end of the day, if we're collecting, basically $2.5 million a month is 13,000 in fraudulent charges. Like, is that going to make a huge impact on our, bottom line? Not a huge impact, no. But like, everything adds up, man. And it makes me realize if I wasn't doing this, when I was one or two practices. If I'm doing a better job now, think about all these other docs out there that have a single practice or two practices who aren't going, taking the time to go through all these charges and catching things. And if you're collecting $100,000 a month and someone fraudulently charges you $10,000, that's going to have a much bigger impact. And like, you think you probably would notice it or feel it, but you might not know where it came from. You might just think like, man, we're like growing, but like there's no more money in the bank or, whatever it is. So guys, I think this was again, a wake up call to me that we need to continue to be even more diligent with our analysis of our monthly expenses and ensuring that everything is, one, you want to see like, are there expenses that maybe we don't need that we could cut, or maybe we could try to negotiate better pricing, or maybe we could try to find a different vendor with better pricing. It's like, there's that opportunity if you're doing this on a monthly basis, but there's also like catching charges that shouldn't be there. Duplicate charges, fraudulent charges, overcharges. I think this hopefully will be a wake up call to everyone. I would guess the majority of you guys listening probably aren't doing a detailed enough look on a monthly basis at your credit card charges, your bank debits, like to make sure that everything is legitimate. You're not being overcharged. There's not fraudulent charges on there. There's not misappropriation of funds. I challenge you, this month, sit down and look at everything from last month. Like, make a habit of it. Schedule a day every single month to go back and look at the previous months. And that's what we do. Like, usually we do it in the first half of the month. So first half of June, we look back at May. First half of July, we're going to look back at June. So do it early. And again, if you work with your accountants, you can normalize EBITDA. And usually your EBITDA, your profit can be higher. And like, you say like, okay, like, how does this really help? I did a whole episode on this, but like, if you're looking to scale, to grow, if you want another loan from the bank to open another practice or do an expansion of your practice, it's a lot easier to get more funding if your profit margin looks stronger. And, it's impossible to do that if you're not going through the charges and normalizing, what should actually count against EBITDA and what shouldn't. So,
yeah, it's easy, I think, to miss this kind of stuff. So, hey guys, this is a short episode. I think the moral of the story is pay attention to your numbers. Look over your charges periodically. Like, you don't have to do it every month, but if you did it every 3 months or once every 6 months and you went through it thoroughly, you'd catch something like this. And I guarantee, if you look through your charges with all your vendors, you're going to find some missed charges that shouldn't have happened if you're doing a lot of transactions. Like, there's going to be mistakes. So look through it every 3 months or 6 months and make sure you guys are paying attention to this stuff. Hey guys, it's a shorter episode. Thank you for joining us. Please like, subscribe, share, follow, and leave a review. Thank you so much and have a great day.